Now that we've gotten some practice with the basic randomized comparative experiment, let's move on to a new type of experimental design. We're going to look at the randomized block design next. And a block is a group of individuals in the sample that are known to be similar in some way that is expected to affect the response to the treatments or the response variable. Now, this is an idea we've looked at a little bit previously. This is very similar to that idea of the two-color scatter plot, where when you separate those groups by color, it makes it easier or more clear to see the pattern within each group. This is also closely related to the idea of this stratified random sample that you do with a survey or study, where you break the sample into groups by the same characteristics. So it's be gender, race, age, and you took a few people out of each group. So this is generally something that's innate to your participants. On occasion, it can be randomly assigned, and I'll give you an example of that. But it's generally something specific to the participants themselves, and so you wouldn't say that you're randomly assigning people into blocks. This is just something that is innate about them. Now, whether it's innate to them or you have one of the special ones that's a random assign, the deal with the blocks is that we're choosing them based on the most important unavoidable source of variability. So it's the thing that we think is really going to cause the biggest influence on the response variable based on these groups. So some examples of how these blocks might work. If we were using students, then you could look at class rank, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. You could look at major. If we were doing some sort of general population studies, maybe age, so in the medical field, small children and elderly often respond very differently to things than teens and adults. This could be by race or any number of things like that. In the animal studies, so we could classify the animals on the basis of age, weight, litter size, or some other characteristic that gives us some uniformity within each of these blocks or subgroups. If we're looking at plants, land is normally laid out in equal sized blocks, and then each block is subdivided into however many equal sized pieces you would need for each of the treatments. Industry and field. So the plants in the industry and field, those might be the ones that might be a little more subject to a little bit of random assign into the blocks. It'll kind of depend on how that's set up. But for industry and equipment, one thing that we can look at there is suppose you had a whole machine shop full of table saws. They were all the same brand, same make, model, all of that. But if you've worked with machines, you know each one is just a little bit different in some way. And so we might make each machine its own block.